Hey everybody, good afternoon. Roman Polnar here, Pillar 6 College Planning, coming to you live. And this morning I launched a new webinar for high school seniors on how to fill out the financial aid forms in the right way and position themselves to get the most amount of good financial aid. And in preparation and building this webinar, I researched a lot of the stats and found some really interesting figures that I thought you may find interesting as well. So I'm going to share them with you because while I knew a lot of the trends, the actual numbers really blew me away. So the first thing that I found really interesting, unfortunately, and scary interesting, is that of all the expenses that an average household has, college tuition is the number one, or has been the number one most expensive thing on the list. And for the last 20 years, this is according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that it's been the fastest growing cost of all the costs that people have. And this is just common household goods and services. Now, rightfully so, a lot of people complain about the cost of health insurance. Well, over the last 20 years, health insurance has gone up at 100%. Cost of college has gone up at 150%. There's literally nothing more expensive that families spend money on, or it's gotten so much more expensive in the last 20 years than college. In fact, between the second highest category, which is medical care, there's 50% difference. So for most people, their income has not gone up 150%. And so as a result, there's now this bigger affordability gap that exists between the amount that people can comfortably pay for college out of their income or the amount that they've been able to save to send their kids to school. And there's still a giant gap, right? So where do people turn? They turn to the financial aid system. Well, here's the interesting thing about the financial aid system. It was created in 1965 as sort of a last resort to help mid-income families just afford that little bit of difference between the amount that they needed and the cost of schools. Well, since then, okay, not since then, just in the last 15 years, the amount of money that the government has given out in student loans, both to students and their parents, went from $500 billion to $1.5 trillion. That's just in the last 15 years. And here's another scary thing. In the last 10 years, from 2010 until now, the government issued more student loans than in the prior 45 years combined since the inception of the financial aid program. I mean, that's just mind-boggling. And so what happens is people are continuing to borrow all this money. The government is more than happy to lend it to us. And so the schools just keep on raising their prices because they know the government's just going to keep on issuing more and more student debt. And, when I was preparing this, I saw a lot of comments where people were saying, well, yeah, but, student debt is mainly for kids, and once they graduate, they'll get a good job. They'll pay it off, right? 10 years, 15 years, and they'll be done with it. That's not what the numbers show. In fact, it seems, or not seems, it is, the fact that people maintain student loans into their 70s. As of right now, let me just look at the figures. As of literally right now, 3 million Americans over the age of 60 owe more than $86 billion in student loans. Now, partially it's because they borrowed when they were going to college and they're still paying it off, but also because more and more parents are borrowing to help their kids go to college. They're going to have student debt for the rest of their lives. And the scary thing is, unlike all the other types of loans, whether it be mortgages or car loans, credit cards, or personal loans, people get into financial trouble. They can at least get out from underneath all that debt, whether through a settlement or worst case scenario, they just declare bankruptcy. Obviously not anything that anybody would want to go through, but if, worst comes to worst, it's an option. Well, these federal student loans are sticky. Can't just get rid of them. They follow you all the way through. So, and for people who don't pay them off, the government will withhold Social Security benefits for retirees if they're not paying back their student loans. And if they completely give up paying student loans entirely, the government's going to send you a tax bill for the amount of money that they are effectively never going to collect from you. So it's a big, big problem, and the numbers are just staggering. So what are people to do? If you've got a college-bound student and you haven't been able to save all the money that they would need to afford college today, and you may not have extra money in your cash flow, so how are you going to bridge that gap without having to borrow from the government? Well, there are a couple of things that I would recommend. If you've got a younger student in high school, but they're not yet seniors, check out 4 Money Steps for College. That's 4moneystepsforcollege.com. And we go over 4 areas where families can find money. The first one being, you got to organize your finances and prepare for the filing in a way that will open up opportunities for financial aid. And if you're not going to qualify for financial aid because of your income or assets, shift your focus to looking for tax savings, specifically when sending your kids to college. Now, the second part of the 4 money steps is you got to look for schools that are a great fit for your student, but they're also a great fit for you financially, which means you want to look for schools that not only have financial aid to give you, but also would have merit aid, money that they would use to recruit your student. And your student doesn't have to be a star athlete or a star musician or this perfect scholar. There are a lot of colleges looking for good fit kids for various criteria. So you just have to look. There are over 4,000 colleges in the U.S. alone. And most people can only think of a dozen or maybe 2 dozen because those are the big brand name Ivy League colleges making the headlines, but there are great schools around the country that would love to have your kids, and they're not getting the attention from the national press. The third step is to apply in the right way. So the webinar that we're building or just launched, it actually teaches families how to prepare and complete and follow up and correct any errors or fill in any blanks on the financial aid system. But that's the third area. And the fourth and final area, and the one that is most surprising to people, is negotiating with colleges when they accept your student. Because most people think that whatever financial aid they get is set in stone. Well, it's not. And there are certain ways that you can come back and appeal for a special circumstance, explain that you may have had some changes, or simply negotiate with schools based upon some other competitive colleges that have extended a better offer. On the other hand, if you have a high school senior right now, it is October 7th, 2020, all living through this crazy pandemic and things are changing. Go to FAFSAdoneright.com and sign up for one of the free webinars that we just launched. But one thing that I do want to encourage you, if you have a high school senior right now, do not delay. Whether you join us for one of these webinars or do your own research, submit the FAFSA as soon as you can. And the reason for that is the following. The FAFSA opened up on October 1st, as it does every single year. Well, the federal deadline is not until June 30th of 2021. To be precise, June 30th at 11:59 p.m. But you don't want to wait nearly that long because there's 2 types of financial aid. There's free money and then there's self-help money. The free money is the kind of money that you want. It's grants, scholarships, tuition discounts, money that literally offsets the amount you have to pay out of pocket. It makes college cheaper. On the other hand, the self-help financial aid are things like student loans, parent loans, and work study. So you either have to work for it or you got to pay it back with interest. And like I told you earlier, they're impossible to get rid of. So to focus on the financial aid that you really want, which is the free money, you got to get your applications submitted really quickly because there's a limited amount of money that colleges set aside every single year to award in free financial aid. And if you wait too long until the deadline is due, well, by then, that money's gone. It went to someone else. And the only thing you're going to be able to get are those loans. And there's plenty of those. There's no shortage. The government will just keep on giving you out more and more and more loans. In fact, 13 million families every year apply through the FAFSA. This year, because of the coronavirus pandemic, it is estimated that 45% more people are going to submit the FAFSA, which means if you've got a high school senior, not only do you have 13 million other usual contenders, you now have 45% more of them. You may have upwards of 20 million people competing for free money. And the only thing that stands between you and that money is time. So get yourself organized, fill out the forms in the right way, confirm that everything went through correctly, and then just wait to get the money. And if for some reason you discover there's an error, well, go to one of our webinars at 4moneysteps.com or FAFSADoneRight.com, and we'll teach you how to get more money and how to fix errors so you lower the amount that you're going to be expected to pay. So I hope this was helpful. These figures were incredibly revealing to me, and I'm shocked at, quite honestly, how many people own or owe money to the government, and how very little incentive the government has, to get colleges to lower their prices, because, it seems to be a win-win for them. It's at our expense. So if you're informed, and if you know what to do and how to do it right, you'll certainly position yourself from a place of strength in being able to send your kids to really good schools that you can afford without having to go deep into debt. So again, thank you for watching. Let me know if this is interesting for you. Hit like, drop a comment into the comments box below. If you have questions, let me know. If there's a particular topic you want me to cover, let me know, and I'll be glad to talk about it in one of these live videos, or just shoot me a private note. Until then, plan well, be well, and I wish you all the best. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.